When I hear the term holistic medicine, I mean, maybe some people think of that as something that's made up or is sort of, woo-woo or, not based in fact. But holistic really just means looking at every aspect of a person's health.
There are so many people, especially in the Latin culture, I could say, that don't believe in organic foods because they're like, oh, it's probably not real and it's so expensive.
There's a lot of information or research looking at spending more time in nature and how nature is really, really sort of soothing to our nervous system.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chiquis and Chill. I'm your host, Chiquis. One of the things at the top of your New Year's resolution list, I'm sure it has to do with improving your health because that's on the top of my list. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about on today's episode. But we're going to get specific and talk about how the foods you eat and the environment you are in can impact things like stress, allergies, and hormones. Okay, I have a lot of questions about hormones. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This is Chiquis and Chill. Before we hop into our conversation with our very special guest today, I want to tell you guys a little bit about my health journey. It's been quite the journey, let me tell you. I've done plenty of diets like I've shared before in my books, like, keto. I've done juicing, should I say, intermittent fasting. And I feel like it all works, but then I just fall off the wagon a lot. And I ran into like a whole issue with my hormones about a year ago. So I'm on hormone therapy. And I was so used to doing keto, which was like, a lot of high fats, good healthy fat, should I say, and cheese and things like that. And when I went to see my hormone doctor, he suggested for me to lay off of so much dairy and a lot of protein. So I've been trying to do a little bit more veggies and a little bit more like lentils and rices and things like that. So I've been a little confused because I'm like, okay, I like keto. I like how I feel, but then my hormones are telling me something different. And I feel that every body is different, like every single body, not just everyone, but every body is different. So that has been a little bit of my struggle. We'll get into that a little later. But with me today is Dr. Heather Moday, you guys. She's a leading immunologist and functional medicine doctor based in Virginia. She's also the owner of Moday Center and author of her new book, The Immunotype Breakthrough. So, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Chiquis. This is really fun.
I'm so excited to have you, and I have a lot of questions.
Sure.
First of all, tell me a little bit about yourself. I would like to hear a little bit about your book as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a physician, an MD, and I was trained in internal medicine, which is basically, medicine for adults. But I specialized right after my residency in allergy and immunology, which is one sort of, one area of medicine. And I basically took care of people who had allergies and asthma and sinus problems and skin issues and food allergies for about 10 years in a very conventional way, prescribing drugs and things like that. And I got a little disillusioned with that and really got really interested for my own care, self-care about, nutrition and stress levels and just all that was coming out in research that went beyond regular conventional medicine. And so I did a couple things. I did a fellowship in integrative medicine for 2 years. And then I studied with the Institute for Functional Medicine, which is a very prestigious program that trains practitioners around the world to really learn more about individualized medicine and biochemistry and trying to help people figure out what the root causes of their illnesses and symptoms are, and then really use, balance that looking at lifestyle changes. So
right.
That's what I do now, even though, my first foray was into, immunology and allergy. I do a little bit more than that now, but my book, it sort of came out that, of the idea that inflammation and imbalances in our immune system really end up causing a lot of our diseases, everything from
Absolutely.
Diabetes and heart disease to autoimmune disease, allergies, et cetera. So it really is at the source of a lot of our problems. Yeah.
I agree. And that's what I have felt in my personal life. when I feel like my feet hurt, my joints hurt a little bit more when I'm not taking enough turmeric or I stop taking it, or if I'm eating too much red meat, things like that. Like I'm very in tune with my own body. So I listen to it and I'm like, okay, I need to lay off of certain things. And a lot of people don't believe that. I feel like if the more you eat out, there's just even more additives and preservatives in these meats, and there's antibiotics and all this stuff that they inject in the meats. You know, I'm a firm believer in that, and I can tell the difference. I'm like, oh my God, I've been having way too much fast food, or because I'm always on the run, I'm always traveling.
Sure.
So absolutely. I think that yes, the inflammation in the body that's why I drink so much turmeric, because I feel absolutely different when I do.
Turmeric it's sort of like a master anti-inflammatory. Turmeric has something called curcumin in it. And curcumin, I mean, not to get too scientific-y, but it actually hits a couple of receptors inside of our cells that regulate how inflamed or how certain kinds of immune responses occur. So it doesn't make us like immune suppressed. It doesn't make us less, healthy, but it does decrease inflammation that's like sort of non-purposeful, right? So it's a really great thing. They've looked at it in arthritis and Alzheimer's disease and all sorts of inflammatory conditions. And it's really amazing.
Yes, exactly. So which brings me to the next, my next question, because a lot of people are skeptical about holistic medicine and its effectiveness. So what do you say to those people?
When I hear the term holistic medicine, I mean, maybe some people think of that as something that's made up or is sort of, woo-woo or, not based in fact. But holistic really just means looking at every aspect of a person's health. So I don't think anyone could say right now that the food that you put in your mouth, the sleep that you get, the people that you hang out with, the, emotional trauma that you've had in your life, all of that affects our health. We know that. And stress levels. So anyone who doesn't believe that or agree with that, I think is really sort of a little behind the times, I'd say, because we have tons of, there's so much, there's research in major scientific journals looking at all of this. And I know it's hard for some people in sort of conventional medicine to catch up because they're stubborn and they take a lot, usually takes about 15, 20 years for them to go, oh yeah, that's right. They have to have like 15,000 studies, peer reviewed, et cetera, to actually, get them outside of their box. But, I think that it's one thing to throw around, like one golden cure for everyone's problems. That's not appropriate because, as you said, we're all individuals and we all have, our own needs. But there are some tenets like that we know are really, really important for most people.
And what do you think about, for instance, depression and anxiety, or why are you so tired? Does food and what we put in our bodies take a toll on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, fatigue can come from so many different, causes, right? But, the food that we eat is information. And so if we're eating, like, as you said, if you're eating processed foods like fast food, right, that has industrialized seed oils, things that are fried, very difficult, very inflammatory, we know that actually can cause inflammation in the brain. We also know that high sugar is going to throw off our insulin. That's going to keep weight on. It's going to make us have ups and downs in our cortisol, which is our stress hormones. So that just what you eat can totally change how your fatigue and brain functions on a daily basis. So absolutely.
I completely agree, because when I'm not eating as best as I know I could, or as I should, I definitely feel like my creativity, I can't think straight. I have a foggy mind, it's just all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, I have to go back. And I started for a long time. It was diets. That word diet was just always in my vocabulary. And I'm like, no, it's a lifestyle change. It's important for us to see that what we're putting in our body is an investment, for our future, is how I started to see it. And I'm like, wait, I have to make better choices. Like start my day off with, I have my greens here, I have, and little things like that have made a huge difference. I need energy to just get through the day, and it's not about just drinking a bunch of coffee. It's really healthy energy, like that long lasting energy, not that quote unquote fake energy, or I don't know, what would you call it? Not fake energy, but what's a better word, doctor?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Stimulant energy. It's not truly coming from what's inside of your cells, right? So when you wake up after like a restorative night of sleep, and your brain cells have been like cleared out and all the debris and recycled, and you are able to do everything you need to do. And if you're fueling your body well, but having several cups of coffee or energy drinks, all that's doing is giving you sugar and caffeine. So it's propping you up, but in the end, it's like it brings you down. So it's really important to understand that you're going to feel so much better and you're not going to have those ups and downs of energy if you just take those chemicals out.
Yeah. Do you drink coffee, Dr. Moday?
I do drink coffee. I'm not coffee has its benefits too. So
do you do it black?
I try to drink it black, but I often will put nut milks in it. So I'll use like a macadamia nut milk. I like that. Sometimes oat milk, but yeah, it sort of depends on my mood. But in the afternoon, I drink herbal tea. So
you're probably thinking I'm so nosy, but I'm just like, I want to know because you're a doctor and you look great.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I like my coffee. Now I like it black. Right now with the, it's Christmas time and they have all this, stuff at Starbucks, but I try my best to just have it black with a little cinnamon and maybe a little bit of almond milk and just as clean as possible. The less ingredients and stuff that we put in anything, the better, you guys. Anywho, I have more questions for you.
Yeah.
So what are some of the complaints your patients come to you with? What are they looking to get fixed?
Yeah. So I would say most of my patients come to me because they have been frustrated with the type of care that they're getting. And so the way I work is more on a consultation basis. I don't do primary care. Most of these people are coming in with chronic issues. We see a lot of GI problems, chronic GI issues. So they've been labeled as IBS, or they're told they have some sort of inflammatory bowel disease, or they're just like, they just have food sensitivities and they feel, the whole gamut of GI issues, which, is sort of, is really important when it comes to your health for many reasons.
Right.
And then a lot of people come in with, they've either been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease or they don't have a diagnosis, but they have symptoms that are sort of mystery. They're fatigued, like you said, or their joints ache, or their hair's thinning, or, they just feel fatigued or achy, fibromyalgia.
Like
all sorts of things like that. Constipation, diarrhea,
that's my thing.
Brain fog, cognitive issues, mood issues. So, they're just like, I don't feel right. Something's wrong. No one can sort of help me. And actually, most of my clients are on the younger side, which is sort of interesting, but also a little concerning too. But I think also that the younger generation, and when I mean younger, I mean below 50, which for, doctors, not a lot of young people go to the doctor. So, I think they're more interested in this and more concerned, and also more, they really want to be more responsible for their health.
And that's great. And I think that, actually, do you feel that foods nowadays just have way more additives and preservatives and all this stuff? Do you suggest and recommend to your patients to have more organic foods?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's sort of a no-brainer. Every time we eat, we make a decision, but also everything that is in that food has to go into our body, has to be identified. Our immune system is going to react to it. Our detoxification systems have to deal with it. We have to digest it. And so, if you have pesticide residues, if you have genetically modified food, these are just not things that the human body was ever meant to deal with. We don't know. Certainly with genetically modified foods, we don't have all the information, but we do know that pesticides obviously are an issue. They can harm our gut bacteria, which we don't want to do. They can store in fat over time and then cause problems. These are things we want to really sort of avoid as much as possible.
Yeah. And I ask that because there are so many people, especially in the Latin culture, I could say, that don't believe in organic foods because they're like, oh, it's probably not real and it's so expensive and, it goes bad faster. So things like that where I'm like, that's why it's important to just kind of buy what you need for the day or for the next 2 days. And yes, it's more expensive, but that's also an investment into your health, into your future, into your body. And I think we need to change that and make little changes from like using, I don't know, vegetable oil, use olive oil, use avocado oil, little changes like that I have tried to even tell my grandmother and some of my family members. I'm like, make those small changes that are going to make a huge difference in your health. because as Latins, we eat a lot of carbs, of beans and rice and tortillas, and we have this much protein because it's too expensive, and it's like we need to change the mindset first and foremost, and saying, hey, I want to feel better. For me, it's obviously I want to look better. I'm a woman. I want to look better. But more than anything, it's change where it's like, I want to feel better. I want to have more energy. I want to wake up not feeling so groggy and needing that cup of coffee to feel good, So I wanted to bring that up because I wanted you to, hey guys, organic food is real and it's so much better for you. And once you see the difference at the store if you compare, the meats, the poultry.
Yep.
But not only that, you taste the difference. It's crazy. It's more expensive, but I'm like, I'd rather cut back on other things that are unnecessary and pay more attention to what's in my refrigerator,
Oh, absolutely. There's always ways to cut back in other areas. I mean, some of us spend a lot of money in areas that aren't really benefiting us, but then we don't want to spend money on things that are truly going to benefit us. And so I think it's just changing priorities,
Listen to Dr. Moday, you guys. Yes. Changing priorities. Okay. So in your experience, what's the biggest mistake people make when trying to improve their health?
I would say, one thing I will say just right off the bat is, this is going to sound weird, but they over focus on what they're eating. They think of that as being like the only thing because it's something that's really tangible. So for example, they'll, go on this diet or that diet or that diet or that diet. And then they don't feel better because they're not addressing maybe some other aspects of their lifestyle. So, maybe some of the nutritional changes have helped, but they either haven't been sustainable or they haven't addressed sleep or stress or things like that. And then I think also an over reliance on sort of quick fixes or supplements, which I'm not against supplements. I use them all the time. But this idea that like one supplement is going to reverse, years of of problems and, there's a magic bullet, and that's not true either. They can be helpful, but you have to sort of do the other work as well.
Yeah. So do you think that exercise is important?
Absolutely. But I think there's a lot of different interpretations of what exercise is. And, humans were meant to move. And that's why they talk about, 10,000 steps or 15,000 steps. Like, we're not supposed to be sedentary people, but we also are not required to do massive amounts of exercise on a daily basis. And, some studies have shown that people who are just sedentary during the day and then, maybe do half an hour, 45 minutes of exercise once a day aren't as healthy as people who just move around throughout the day, who just walk or bike or, just go up and down the stairs and just, stand while they're working, etc. And also some exercise can be super stressful on people. They can be doing things that are stressing their body out because maybe they're not getting enough sleep and they're not recovering between workouts. And then that can really be detrimental too.
Yeah, I think it's important, again, to listen to your body. And people think of working out, it has to be strenuous and you have to like sweat a whole bunch and you have to lift heavy weights. And in reality, it's like Dr. Moday was stating, it's just about moving, taking a nice little walk, a little hike. It's not just taking even things that you enjoy, like a bike ride, yoga, meditate. I feel like meditation is a huge thing. It's helped me so much also with my health, but that's a whole other story. But it's just getting your body moving. I think like if you just sit on the couch and you don't do much, that's when your joints start hurting. And I'm sure a lot of people got like the Apple Watches that have like track your steps and how much you've been active. And sometimes it even tells you to breathe, or the Fitbits. How obsessive do you think that we should or shouldn't be with these devices?
Well, I think they can be really helpful. And of course, every device is a little bit different, so some are maybe more accurate than others. I don't think you have to be obsessive, but, before we didn't have any of this information, and now we're able to track our steps. We're able to see our sleep stages, and we're able to see like our heart rate variability. And some trackers will actually give you the next day, like how recovered are you from maybe exercise you did the day before. So I think they can be really, really useful. This is great technology. It can let you know like, hey, I'm not sleeping well. I need to really concentrate on that. Or wow, like I only got 5,000 steps and my goal is to get 10 or 12. That means I need to move a little bit more. And sometimes without these trackers, we may not keep up on it. So, but I don't think anybody should be obsessed about anything, quite honestly, because it can make you a little anxious.
So, doctor, what types of things should be taken into consideration when we're trying to overhaul our health? Is it age, weight, gender?
I think you should go based on what are your goals, right? So, what are your goals and what's your why behind your goals? That's, I think, the most important thing, because we do know that when you have a very strong why, because goals are usually fraught with, challenges and sometimes things that are a little bit hard. But if you have a really strong why as to, why you want to achieve that goal, you're much more likely to keep up with, the challenges that come up while you're trying to do that. And then I think that, listen to your body, like you said. Symptoms are extremely important. And you don't have to overanalyze every little ache or pain. But if you know that, okay, every time I get 6 hours of sleep, the next day I'm anxious, or every time I eat pasta, I might get brain fog and my stomach hurts. You can really just listen to yourself and be more of an intuitive.
Right.
And then, write those things down. I'm a big fan of people keeping food diaries too. You don't have to be obsessive about it, but just take a week of your life and write down what you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe track some symptoms, your mood, how you feel, your brain function. It really can be really insightful.
I've had them before and they really do help, like, so
Mm-hmm.
much, just because you look back and you're like, okay, I already had too much of this today. Maybe I should get more greens in, and so many people don't eat their greens and they're so important. So
I
sometimes when
know.
I can't eat them, I drink them. So I completely agree, because I think people then go to the doctor when it's too late, when in reality, you can avoid so many things if you make small changes every day. Like, for instance, don't drink soda. Say, instead of drinking
Mm-hmm.
soda, I'll have iced tea. And instead of having iced tea, when you get to that point, have just water, and things like that are huge, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's small changes. It doesn't have to be drastic, little by little. Okay, I'm going to remove tortillas from my diet. I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be, because every case is different, but
Mm-hmm.
small changes make a huge difference. And I think the food journal is awesome. If you guys do that in the beginning of the year, just for 2 weeks, you just start kind of realizing, and you see it on paper and you see it's different. And you're like, oh, dang, okay, I had this. Even if it's a cheeseburger, like, just try it honestly, and then you're going to
Mm-hmm.
make better choices because you're going to see it on paper, you guys. So I love
Yeah.
that. In your professional opinion, how big of an impact do our surroundings have on our health?
I think a lot. And I think some people would say even more so than I believe. So, and what I mean by that is that we are affected by, everything. We're affected by light, how much light exposure we get. So I talk a lot about that in the chapter on sleep in my book, because the amount of light and darkness that we are exposed to throughout the day, especially light from electronic devices, really changes our circadian rhythm. And our circadian rhythm regulates so many different systems in the body. So we're talking about hormones. Our circadian rhythm is really driven by two hormones. One is called melatonin. Most people have heard of melatonin. It's sort of like what turns on when we go to sleep, and it's signaled by darkness or lack of light. And then cortisol, which is our stress hormone, which goes down at night while we sleep and then comes up in the morning. So those two things regulate a lot in the body. But it also trickles down to other hormones. So when our cortisol is off, it throws a lot of our sex hormones off. So that's super important. The other thing would be things like, obviously, toxins. All of us deal with chemicals all day long. It's just part of our natural world. There's no way to completely escape them. But we do know that lots of the things that we breathe in, that we touch, that we eat, we drink, obviously have to be filtered through the body. A lot of them end up causing immune reactions or inflammation, heavy metals, organic compounds from the foods that we eat, or plastics, cosmetics, obviously. Women use a lot of them. So over time, the amount of time you're on the planet and you're taking all this stuff in, it's going to have an impact. And so it's important to look at these things that you're touching and eating, and how you're sleeping, and the light exposure you get, because it really does impact your health tremendously.
Yes, I agree. Even right now that you mentioned electronics, I've done this thing where I don't sleep with my phone. Like, a lot of people just put it under the pillow. It's so important, you guys, to keep it away, as far away as you possibly can. In another room would be great, but I know we all use it as an alarm. So I put it on my nightstand, because that is so bad for us. I mean, radiate. It's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a whole other episode.
It's a whole
but-
other episode, but it is one thing that people can do if they're like, oh, I absolutely have to have my phone nearby, is put it on the floor next to your bed. So the further it can be from your head, because you were referring to electromagnetic frequencies, which we know
There
come
you go,
from
that one.
from cell phones, right? And there's a lot of data showing that these electromagnetic frequencies can affect the cells in our body. So put it in airplane mode. You can still use your alarm. Just put it in airplane mode, stick it on the floor so it's like a good, 3 feet from your head. Yeah, and surprisingly, some people find that they sleep much better that way too. But that's a much safer thing to do.
Yeah, guys, that's some real stuff. Okay, so keep that in mind. And like you also mentioned, doctor, earlier about the light exposure. I think sometimes we don't get enough sunlight. We all need that vitamin D, and I feel like when I don't take my vitamin D, or I'm not out enough, out in the natural sun,
Yep.
I feel more depressed. I feel sadder easy.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong, or am I like tripping about that?
No, that's a lot of people have vitamin D deficiency, even if they live in a sunny place, even if they live in California, Arizona, because most of us spend a lot of time indoors. So even if it's, sunny outside, you're inside and you're covered up, you might have sunscreen on. And then also, depending on where you live, even in the winter, we move pretty far away from the sun. Like the earth moves far away. So we don't get the same UV light. And it's actually the UV light that causes vitamin D to occur in the body. We actually make vitamin D ourselves. So you can drop pretty low unless you're taking vitamin D. And that's like the one vitamin the one vitamin that I think almost everyone should take, or at least they should have their levels checked by their doctor. It's not an expensive test. And then you can decide like, hey, if they're low, you want to try to increase it, because we know it's really important for depression. It's important for inflammation. It's important for autoimmunity.
I feel the difference when I take my vitamin D and when I don't take it. And I'm talking about vitamin D, the real vitamin D, guys. I know some of you guys are thinking something else. Sorry, doctor. I just had to say that, but
it's okay.
But anyway, but it is important. Men and women should take it daily. Again, like Dr. Moday said, you guys please go get it checked, get your level checked, because it's going to change your life. It really does help you. You're in a better mood. I can't tell you enough, since I've been taking it for about 3 years now, and my life has changed completely. So talking about environment, Dr. Moday, what do you think about, or what are your suggestions, should I say, about creating that environment? You have suggestions, like what kind of environment we need? What do you suggest in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, so like for a physical environment, the things that you want to think about are in your house or apartment, wherever you live, is what is your bedroom like, right? So do you keep it cool? Is it nice and dark? Do you have blackout shades? Those are all really important. Do you run like a HEPA air filter in case your indoor air is not very clean, or you have pets? Some people sleep so much better when they have an air filtration unit on.
Is that like an air purifier?
Yeah,
right?
an air purifier. Okay. And they're so easy to find now. And, if you have to work, say, in the evening using like your computer or, phone, whatever, you can actually purchase blue light blocking glasses on the internet for cheap. And you can wear those. They even make magnifying ones if you need that. And that's what I do. And it blocks out that blue light that comes from the screens. And when you do that, you're going to sleep better. You're going to go into deeper sleep cycles. So you'll notice it. You'll really notice that you're able to fall asleep better and you sleep better. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is to just go around your house, your apartment, and, go through your cabinets and look at what you're cleaning your house with, look at what you're putting on your body in terms of cosmetics or, personal care products. And I always recommend using the Environmental Working Group website. It's a independent company that has a great database that you can look up the products that you're using, and it gives you a score of, how toxic it is.
It's scary.
It's really, it can be scary, but you can find so many great alternatives. So they have those as well. And, these are things that you can order online, you can find around. So, and I tell people, don't go crazy. You can easily like go down the rabbit hole of, anxiety, worrying about this stuff.
Be careful, guys. Yes.
Yeah. Just pick a couple of things, decide like, hey, I'm going to change my toothpaste and my soap and, I don't know, my lipstick or something, my moisturizer, your deodorant. Yeah. Pick something you use like on a regular basis and just change that. And, you can take 6 months to make the rest of the changes, just like little baby steps.
And it, like talking about deodorant, I just changed it. I mean, I had been using a more natural, actually an all natural deodorant, and it wasn't really working back in the day. So I went back to my I don't want to say the brand, and of course it works, But then I know better. I'm like, okay, these are a lot of toxins going into my body, so I would just went back. You guys, it takes a little bit of time for your body to get used to, okay, but it's great. Even your cleaning products, I changed my dishwashing soap, my detergent, my softener, and my favorite, I'm just gonna tell you, my favorite brand is 7th Generation. So that's just the one I suggest. You can get that at Whole Foods. Again, I'm telling you, I love Whole Foods. They're not paying me, you guys. I'm just telling you from my heart. I love Whole Foods because I find everything there. Even candles, you guys, candles that we light, a lot of them they're toxic for us. So once you see how many chemicals each thing that we use on a daily basis have, then you're going to know, okay, it's time for me to change something. So little changes make a big difference. Again, so doctor, let's talk about stress.
Yeah.
I think we all deal with that every single day, even if we don't want to. It's just a part of life now. How does stress take a toll on our body?
Well, it takes a toll when it becomes chronic and sort of unrelenting. I explain to people that certain of us are in very stressful situations that other people aren't in. So let's just say financial stressors, you lost your job, maybe someone's sick, someone died, obviously like toxic relationships, there are definitely people who have it worse off. But there's many of us who are sort of like average stress, but we create mountains out of molehills, right? As they say, we react to things. We allow our thoughts to become realities, and we worry about the future. We worry about things that haven't happened. And that's the thing that we have to think about controlling, because it's not really the stressor itself. It's how the body reacts to the stressor. And as humans, we were created to respond very well to acute stress. So, a car is going down the street, it narrowly misses you as you're crossing the street. Obviously, that stimulates you to run and jump out of the way. And that's important. And so we have a lot of chemicals, hormones that surge and are there for a reason to help us survive anything like that. However, if every day we're worried about something or we're stressing about something, those little stressors can become very unhealthy because they change the way that our body actually responds to those hormones. And it puts us in we call an immune suppressed state. So our immune system actually becomes a little bit weaker. And so then we can become sick more easily. There's higher incidence of cancer in people that are stressed, higher incidence of future autoimmune disease in people who are chronically stressed. It impairs our GI or our gut health. So really important to understand that you have a lot of control over how your body reacts with stress. So that's why I'm a big proponent of adding in some self-care on the regular, like daily.
Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. For me, like I said earlier, it's meditation, it's something that I've been doing for the past couple of years more often. And it really just puts me in a different state of mind. I start my day better and not looking at my phone. The first thing that I do, it's just more of just going in and finding that inner peace. And then if someone cuts me off, I'm not that upset. I don't flip them off. I'm like, okay, I just take a deep breath. I'm like, it's okay. It is fine. My day is completely different. And I used to do this thing. I still do it. It's hard. It's a daily thing, you guys, but future trip where, you're worrying about something that hasn't even happened. And it's kind of like, wait a second, that hasn't even happened. Like you have to just bring yourself back. And that helps so much with stress. Where I'm like, you know what? All I can do is today. All I can do, like we want to do so much in one day. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I can. There's no need to just stress myself out for no reason. It's really giving yourself therapy. I'm giving you my tips as what has helped me because we all have different stresses or things that stress us out. But do you suggest any foods to reduce stress?
So, that's interesting. There are certain adaptogens. Adaptogens are basically herbs that help our stress response adapt, and also certain medicinal mushrooms. So those are certain things that can help. So I'm a big fan of, and you can take these in sometimes teas. So for example, a lot of herbal teas will have things that are very soothing to your stress system. So things that have like valerian root or kava or something called magnolia, lemon balm. These are all calming.
Nice.
And then there's supplements that you can take like ashwagandha, which is like a Indian Ayurvedic herb, and rhodiola. These are also really
Oh.
protective, or they say adaptive to our stress response. And so I'm a big fan of using all these. They've become very big. You can find them now in like teas, coffees, tinctures, pills. Those are all great options.
Thank you so much. Okay. And as you know, this is a time where people are reevaluating their choices and trying to create healthier and happier lives. What are your tips for achieving that? Like, for example, we talked about meditation. Like, I want to hear a
Mhm.
little bit. What do you think? What do you suggest?
I'm a big proponent of looking at what's individually an issue for you. So, and this is a great thing I think to do at the end of the year is you can write down the areas of your life, like your relationships, your sleep,
Mm,
your nutrition, your work life, whatever it is, right? You write down these areas and go through and give yourself a score. Like, how did I do this year? Like, how did I do with my relationships? How did I do with my mental health? How did I do with my sleep? And if you're like, I didn't do so great here, you can then put efforts into those areas first. So, for stress, I think that, as you mentioned, meditation is great. And there's lots of different ways to do it. There's no one answer for everybody.
mm-hmm.
Some people do really well just with a lot of deep breathing exercises, and there's a lot out there that regulates your stress response and your nervous system quite a bit. And movement, as you said, things like exercise, there's a lot of information or research looking at spending more time in nature and how
Yes.
nature is really, really sort of soothing to our nervous system. We were meant to be outside and we're always locked up in boxes and, you know, but
Right.
being
Yeah.
outside, especially in like the summer, if your feet can touch the ground and you can be around trees, that has been shown to be very, very helpful. So that's sort of like one
Yes.
area that you can focus on. But I think, looking at your individual needs, like for me, I would say my nutrition is actually really pretty spot on. I just happen to love to eat healthy. I am not a big sugar person. I don't have a lot of issues there, but I would say sometimes my stress gets out of control and I forget to spend time doing the things I need to do, gratitude journaling, etc. So for me, that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I always have to remind myself to do. But I know that when I do it, I feel better.
Oh, yes, I need to do more of my I mean, I do it out loud, but there's something different about writing it down. That
Yeah.
is just changes. It changes the game, you know. And right now you said about going out in nature. I mean, I've worked so much. I want to do a little bit more of that this upcoming year where it's
Hmm.
I go in on hikes, I go just take a walk at the park, take the dogs out. You know, I want to do more of that and just breathe fresh air because we're always inside. I'm in a studio or something. So that's one of
Hmm.
my New Year's resolutions is taking more hikes, more walks,
Hmm.
and just having
Yeah.
that morning to myself with the gratitude journaling a lot more. Thank you for reminding me about that. And then you were
Hmm.
also, you mentioned sleep quite a few times, and we didn't talk
Yeah.
about that. So if we could just talk a little bit about how many hours you recommend and how important sleep is.
Yeah. So for adults, they've done quite a few studies looking at this, and the sweet spot is between 7 and 8 hours, and
Okay.
even up to 8.5. Anything really below 7 hours is, sort of teetering on, a little bit of deprivation. And they've looked at sleep for a lot of different health issues. So, for example, even like losing weight and obesity, people who are deprived tend to have disordered hormones. And so they tend to be hungrier during the day. They tend to be more inflamed in general because when we
Hmm.
sleep, we actually do a lot of cleanup of our body. We think of it as like a, quiet time or, we're asleep, so we don't know what's going on. But actually, our body's very active, our immune system in particular. And then going into different
Yeah.
sleep cycles is really important for repair of the body. So deep sleep primarily repairs like our physical body, and the REM sleep is what, that dream state is really helpful for our brain and recording of memories and learning. So if you think about,
Yes.
sort of sleep as actually being like a really active time, then, maybe it's easier to stick to a sleep schedule.
Yeah, there are, I know a lot of people, especially in the music industry, that they're like, "Oh no, I only need 4 hours of sleep." And
Mm,
I'm a person that, I can't sleep until 3 a.m. and I wake up at 7. It's just like this hustle mentality that it's just,
mm,
especially in LA, where I'm like, dude, it's actually really cool to sleep. It's not just because you need, your body needs to rest, your brain needs to
mm-hmm.
rest. Like
Yeah.
at least 6 hours. Like there's no way
Mm-hmm.
you're running on 4 hours. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And I feel like when you don't sleep, like you said, the cortisol in the tummy starts growing and all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
because you're not
Mm-hmm.
resting. Like literally, rest is so important. And I just mean in general, like once we're working so hard, but you need to have the time where you like balance your life, where I work, but I also have my rest days. On Sunday, I don't do anything. You know what I mean? It's important to do
Mm,
that because
yeah.
everyone's like, "Oh, let's, the rat race of life and we got to go and do more and more and more." And it's like, guys, sit down and chill and relax and take a walk or something.
I know. I think that's true. The hustle mentality. I think that's going to be the next thing to go in, I think the new trend for 2022 is going to be sort of like the anti-hustle, really
Mm-hmm.
sort of getting back to rest, and it's okay to nap, and appreciating restorative things and spending more time with family, because we have been so stressed out and so separated from each other.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's nothing for me. It's like, it's great to hustle, but you got to hustle and then also rest,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sleep, you
Yeah.
guys, is important. So, yeah. So, honestly, it's been great speaking to you. Thank you so much and being patient with me. And I had all these questions. I have so many more, but, I know your time is valuable, but thank you. I really appreciate it, Dr. Moday. And where can people find you on social?
They can find me. I'm mostly active on Instagram at the Immunity MD. So that's the best way to check out what I'm up to. And there are links there to also my website and some of the programs we run through that as well.
Awesome. You guys follow her and her book. The book is out. So, tell us a little bit about the
Yes.
book.
Yes, it's called the Immunotype Breakthrough, and it is a personalized plan to balance your immune system and live optimized health. So it breaks it down into 4 different kinds of sort of immune personalities and gives you guided information about how to really balance your immune system for better health.
I'm definitely going to purchase it. I need it in my life for this new year, new me. I know it sounds cliche, but you guys, it's never too late. And
It's
before we
never too
go,
late.
talking about that, it's never too late. And every day is a good day to start. So I have a quote for everyone. I always end my podcast with a quote. Today is your day to start fresh, to eat right, to train hard, to live healthy, to be proud. That is my quote for the day, you guys. Again, it doesn't have to be a Monday to start. It happens to be a Monday, but it doesn't have to be a Monday. It could be a Friday. It doesn't have to be the first of the month. It doesn't have to be the first of the year. It's never too late to be a better version of yourself, like I always say. So thank you guys so much. Thank you again, doctor. It was so great. Los quiero mucho. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Chiquis and Chill. This is a production of iHeartRadio and My Cultura Podcast Network. Follow us on Instagram at My Cultura Podcasts and follow me, Chiquis, that's CHIQUIS. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.